Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the pledge to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, review the sign-in sheet. Charles Strauss, want to talk about Farmers Drive?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to make a plea to the Board of Supervisors of the township here. First of all, I want to say that Los Brothers Trucking, which is trying to utilize the property, some of the owners are also township residents. They live within the township. I think one of them lives out in Blandon, but some of them live in the Fleetwood area, on the outskirts of Fleetwood in Richmond Township. And I'm the owner of the property, and I also live in the township. And I'm going to ask that you waive the requirement of it having to go to land development and having to go to zoning when it is already, it's in C2 commercial zoning, and truck parking isn't allowed use in C2 commercial zoning. And and they're not going to, at this point in time, they're not planning to build anything on there. Obviously, if they would want to build something on there, then I understand things would have to go further. But it's like an undue burden that's put upon us and the other township residents having to go through this with their hiring their lawyers and having the expense, and they're hiring an engineering firm. I'm paying my lawyer to communicate back with their lawyers and, try to make adjustments for them. And anyway, it just seems like a unnecessary burden that we're going through in order to allow them to just use the property to park trucks there. For about the last 7 years, I've had trucks parked there on the lot. There was a company from Utah that was parking 2 trailers on the lot. And there was a truck driver from Topton that was parking his truck there. And then he would come with his car and leave the car there during the day and take the truck. And these people here will be taking care of the property, maintaining it, keeping the weeds cut, making it look nicer. And so I'm asking that you would consider waiving those requirements.
Jeff, do you want to speak to what's required? And I get where you're coming from, but we still, even though it's allowed in C2, we still have rules we have to follow, to make sure that it's done properly. So let's talk to zoning.
Well, I did talk to Mr. Strauss a couple of weeks ago, and I know Scott and I and the board, we've all been engaged in this property because of how it's happened. And I knew, right, as I've said to you before, I know both the attorney that's working for the lease applicant and also Rob Hain, the engineer that was working on this. I'm a little, I guess, concerned about they're coming in and they're dumping millings on the property to create a parking surface. We have no detail as far as what they're going to do as far as an entrance onto the township road. I think we need to be concerned about what's done there because if there's a number of trucks coming in and out on a daily basis, I think we want to protect the township road through there. So typically we would address that through a land development plan. Can we work out an agreement to have maybe a plan that's not quite as elaborate as we would typically require? If there was a building and a lot of people parking there, we probably could. We could use some common sense and come up with a plan. I think that would work for that. Maybe what needs to happen is Scott and I can sit at the table with these folks and work things out. I just think we need some more details before I would say to you, let's waive the land development plan. I think there needs to be some conversation between, what's the gentleman's name, Mr. Strauss?
The one that I speak to most of the time, his name is Juan.
Juan. You know, maybe if Juan can meet with Scott and I'm throwing that on Scott, that's a surprise to him, but I think it's something that we could do to get a little bit more detail about what they're gonna do and what we would prefer to see, what we think is best gonna prevent mud and stones from coming out in the road and also protect the edge of the road. I think that's important. And I think we need to set some parameters too, that, you know, I've heard comments that people are over there working on trucks on weekends and changing oil, that type of thing. You know, I think that's an activity that can't happen there, or else we're gonna have oil spilled on that ground and, you know, environmental issues there that we don't need. So I think there needs to be some guidelines of what we would expect that could operate there and what can't be done. I think it needs to be laid out in an organized fashion and not a haphazard parking situation. Does that help?
I know we had that, there was a plan that came through on that property before, which kind of opened your eyes to where that stands, and I don't have the history of everything that has gone in and other plans, but it did open up a window to that lot has the stormwater basin on it, and some of those lots contribute to that basin, and anything that was going down, I mean, at that previous project, that it was basically the storage area, if you recall that, but from that improvement, then you had the stormwater runoff. I mean, there was easements through the property that had to be protected because it wasn't just that lot that had a stormwater easement that went through it, but as Jeff was saying, you're kind of establishing some kind of a use where there was no use, which is what that land development process is really trying to capture, is saying, if you're having that operation, then meeting those standards. And I know the stormwater, even though there's a basin there was still changes that had to be done to bring it up. That's always the problem, without something there and the ordinances change, you're running through that process to make sure you're currently meeting those ordinances. And that's, I know stormwater is one of them, but as Jeff said, that entrance onto Farmers Drive and setbacks and lot coverage and that stuff, it all, unfortunately, that's the stuff that gets captured and caught with the land development. That's why it's there. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the operation that may be coming in or is proposed and how it's different. And it's obviously not the storage facility, but yeah, I think there would have to be a look at the plan and see if it's truly just establishing a new use or what's occurring there.
I think at this point in time, we have no idea the size, the scope of what they want to do as far as how much paving or impervious surface are they going to create, which will affect, of course, the stormwater issue.
Yeah, I mean, in perfect example, I think the ordinance requires if it's a area for parking or vehicles and commercial property, it's supposed to be paved. So one, you got to watch the stormwater. Two, if it's not paved, then you're looking at variances or something in those. It's kind of a nuisance to go through the process, but the process is there for a reason. But again, not knowing all the details to it, that's just some of the items that came up as we were looking at that other possible development that came onto that property.
And I think, you know, as the township's concern is, we'd love to see something being done there, that the property is going to be maintained. So I think, you know, there's a benefit to having a conversation with these folks to see if we can, you know, work up something that is going to meet the needs that Scott and I have, the concerns, but also is going to address those issues in the long term. So we're not sending him an OBs every year because the high grass and weeds hasn't been cut. And there's all kinds of activity there that if it's gonna be truck parking, fine, then let's set it up that it is truck parking. And it's not gonna include people doing repair work during the weekends or during the weekend anytime.
I guess my greatest concern would be, that if it's not gonna be blacktop, what's the plan? Is there gonna be a base down there?
Is there gonna be one?
Is there gonna be a base down there to park on?
I don't think, there is some millings there now, and they were gonna spread some other millings.
Yeah,
but-
millings aren't gonna do it though. They're
Okay,
gonna disappear. When this thaws in the spring here, those millings go away so quick. There has to be a base down.
okay.
I speak from experience. It doesn't work. So you have to put something down, large stone, and then there's a method to it. Start with big stone, end up with small. Millings on top are great, but if you put millings on top of dirt, you're wasting your millings because they will disappear, especially on ground that isn't compacted or heavy ground. So, and then it gets to Jeff's point of that is going to turn into a muddy mess. I can guarantee it's going to. So you're going to be dragging that out on the township roads. And the other thing that you worry about is as you go in and out of there, if you don't have an apron in there, you're going to be breaking the edge of the road down. So I think all of us up here realize that there's a real need for truck parking. There's no denying that. And we'd like to see something happen with that property, that this might be a good fit, but if we're gonna see it done, we wanna see it done the right way, that it's gonna be successful for you. And then you're gonna have to do something to that property to make it fit to carry trucks, especially loaded trucks. They're gonna sink in there like crazy once this ground gets wet. You just really need a good base there, or a blacktop. But there again, blacktop has to be done right too, or you need a base down. This all comes down to the base. So, but I think from what I'm hearing from Jeff and Scott here, we're certainly willing to listen to you. But at this point, it doesn't sound like there's a plan to me. Or if there is, we don't know about it.
And we can't waive the land development totally. We have to, it comes at a cost, but there's some value there if it's done right, and we gotta protect the rest of the township, so we're not gonna waive just to go in there and park. That's just can't happen. It's a commercial spot, it's C2, like you said, there's some value there, but it has to be done right, and if they wanna sit down with these guys and they come up with something that's, that's agreeable, but there's gonna have to be some work done, to get trucks in and out of there and get up parking and not having oil changes in the parking lot. That's a big concern too.
Well, I can understand if you want to restrict that.
But the only way we can do that is with a plan. You know what I mean? This is what's allowed. This is what you're planning on doing. So we have an understanding what you guys are going to do, and you have an understanding what you're allowed to do. At the end of the day, everybody knows where they're at, and before they spend money, and then they say, "Well, you said we could do this." That's not just how it works. It has to be a plan. We can look at it. We can agree, and this is what's allowed. And then when you do it the right way, you'll have something. There's value to that parking there. I park trucks all over the country for $250 to $500 a month. There's value, especially in this area. But you don't want to have an issue and have a truck sink down to the axles and have to tow it out and all that. And we don't want that. We don't want mud. We don't want an issue with the farmer's drive because we have to pay for that. So that would be my suggestion. Get these guys together with whoever's leasing it and what the plan is, and they can help you. Okay. All right. All right. Approval of the minutes from January 5th, the reorganizational. Any questions?
No, I look like we did it all discussed. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Approval of minutes from January 12th monthly.
There we go.
Yeah, that's good as well.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. I don't know, maybe next year we do it all as one. It's up to you guys. Let's just remember that. Talk about it. You don't have that, you want to- Code enforcement report.
Now, for the period ending January 24th, we issued 7 permits, total improvement value of $99,886.94. In addition, a couple of zoning permits, 2 solar panel installs, an electrical permit, nothing too exciting. We don't have to discuss 11 farmers. I'd like to discuss a property on Maiden Creek Road, 187. You might not recall, but it was a year or so ago, there was a fire at this property. And I had gone back to the property and met with the homeowner. And the home was and still is in very bad condition. I received a phone call from the property owner's sister with kind of an unusual request, but I think it's kind of appropriate here, but I think we need to discuss it further. Is she wanted to know if we could placard the property as uninhabitable. There must be holes in the roof at different places. There's a lot of moisture that has entered the home. She says there's mold growing all over the second floor. The only part of the house that I was in was the basement. In the basement, the fire was in the back of the house, and it had burned through the plate and not coming up with the right term here, but the 2x10 on the outside, the box, and it was exposed into the basement. Very bad condition. I know the time I was there, the wall was covered with, I refer to them as camel crickets. It was just inundated with them, and who knows what other kind of critters were down there at the time. The property, she has no heat, and I think the water is a little spotty. The woman, I think right now is not, well, I know she's not home. The sister told me I think she's visiting with some folks in Florida, which was a good place for her to go for the winter because, as I said, there's no heat in the home. Chris, I don't know if you want to chime in. Is that, I know that we can legally condemn a house. Is it the type of thing that we should be doing at the request of someone?
No, I don't think we can do it simply because there's a request. I think there
Correct.
has to be an objective violation of applicable codes, and on the basis of the codes, could be placarded. It sounds like it is uninhabitable though, and so I think placarding may very well be appropriate, but you have to go through the process
Right.
Procedurally under the code. But it sounds like that would be an appropriate action.
I mean, the property is in very, very poor condition. Possibly the sister could come and take me through the entire home. I would feel better about doing this if I had the opportunity to walk through the entire home.
Yeah, I think you can give a more objective evaluation of the code conditions at the property if you have full access. So
Okay.
that does make sense if the agent of the owner is willing to give you access, and on the basis of that access, you can do a full evaluation and then write up a report that would support placarding of the property. That would be totally appropriate.
Okay. Well, that's what I shall do.
We're gonna skip and go to the police report. Sorry, chief, I just jumped right.
That's okay.
I'd like to get you in and out.
All right, Richmond Township, for January, 139 incidents, 29 crash investigations, 9 traffic citations, with 5 reportable crime reports, 25 vehicle stops, 31 hours of criminal investigation, follow-up, and 2 hours of court time. For Richmond Township, we handled an assault and several thefts. We made arrests for fleeing, eluding, assaults, DUI, PFA violation, and unauthorized use of the vehicle. We're in the process of hiring another part-time officer, and I'm still waiting on a background investigation to be completed for the potential full-time officers. Not sure what's that, but the officer was involved in a shooting. They have both been cleared, and they were released back to full duty. That's all I have.
How far are you along with the full-time? Is that another couple months yet?
Well, I'm just waiting for the background investigations, and unfortunately, it depends on other people getting back to my detective.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what he's waiting on. So as soon as we get the rest of the information,
I'm sure that's pretty intense.
yeah.
Thank you.
we won't.
All right, SEO report. Not much on here except I don't think this 74 Harts Road is us. You can check that out.
Mhm.
I don't think that's in the township. Robbie, we don't have Harts Road in the township.
I don't think so, no.
I looked it up and it's on the other side of 73. I know where Harts Road is, but either side is not in our township. Virginville Fire Company report. We
They
have
didn't-
a-
No, they have their new reporting system.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I seen the email.
Yeah, that's a
Anything
big
to add?
Yeah, no, he just said that he would be emailing you the amount of calls, but
Yeah, he
the
did.
reporting system is really cumbersome right now.
Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get
Ours
it.
is the same. I can tell you we have 50 calls already. Most of them crashes and wires down, stuff like that, but to get on that new system is a nightmare.
Yeah, you'll get there. Nothing new is ever new. All right.
And I applied the road crew. They did one heck of a job plowing. They did better than some of the other places.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, the roads are awesome compared to some of the other townships I've driven in.
even state. Although the state had an outside contractor, probably was the best our road was in years and years. So, all right. Lifeline report. Oh, we have it. Anything to add to your report? Jeff, all the time?
No, yeah.
Lifeline, a copy of the ambulance report. Looks pretty generic. First County Bridge replacement. Looks like they'd like to attend the March 9th meeting. That would be fine.
Okay.
I'd like to see the plan there.
Yeah, I think they are. Robbie and I met with their engineer back when we were looking at the other, was it Fort Hill Road?
Yeah.
So we're looking at the bridge. And yeah, their intent was to better the approach, although the side closest to 662, they're going as far as they need to there. I don't think they're going much further unless the township was interested in taking over the bridge, because I think how they phrased it. So.
Are they gonna take out the island?
That's what I want to know.
That's the question.
I don't think so. I think their plan was to straighten it out a little bit and pretty much keep it how it is.
Be a good
But 2
spot.
lanes, right? They were trying to do the 2 lanes?
I think it was bigger.
That's not. Whatever they do is gonna be an improvement. But it would be good just for them to come.
Yeah, I just don't see how it's gonna work unless the sight lines are gonna be an issue unless they take the island out.
And that's one place they could take the
Oh,
island.
you're saying what splits.
The island between 662 and the bridge.
That was, I think we kind of brought up the idea of, can you do any kind of improvements in that well, our limit's here. If we want to go further, we can talk.
Well, their limit is from there to the 662.
Yeah, I think they're, yeah.
Yeah,
So what they're telling you is their responsibility is the bridge.
I think that's kind of what they're getting at. Robbie was trying to give them a little background on some of the other things to expect in that area, but, yeah, they'll be able to talk to it better when they get here. This was not their engineer, so I think this is who probably got the contract, so. Just on another note, in that area, I know that the The golf course is actually getting permits to try to dredge some of the area on the pond, that really big one just there before the dam, to try to improve some of the tee boxes and the way the water is sitting, I think. I don't know where that stands, but they reached out about it last year, and
They dredged it maybe 20, 15 years ago. They dredged the whole thing and put it up on it. It was quite expensive, it looked like.
yeah, it's quite a big drainage area to that, which always causes problems, so. They have that. I know the only other thing I was gonna bring up, Jeff and I met with Watkins and another one from our office, architects. They're doing some improvements at the golf course up near the clubhouse there, and it didn't go to the extent of land development. That's kind of why what are you doing? What's your long-term plans? And they have some, but the immediate right now is just all permitting with Jeff and the other guys. And then some little things they might do near the smaller buildings when you first come into the property. But just give you an update that they're gonna be working probably this summer on that stuff, and then possibly down the road, but
We're putting in a new starters. Call it a shack, it won't be a shack, but just for the starter up at the top, so he can see when it's okay for him to tee off and not hit anybody. And they're also gonna be redoing 3 areas in the clubhouse, updating bathrooms, that type of thing. And improving accessibility. So by the pictures, it looks rather dated.
Yeah.
They could use some upgrades.
when they start doing the work, just so you're aware, they were pretty upfront, and here's what we're doing, just so you're aware of what's going on. So if you see it, we are aware of it.
All right, discuss the intersection of Schuler and Shirey. We had a letter concerning, it looks like here that there was a white line approved to put a white line.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked, what's that?
Go ahead.
We talked about that last year, I'm not sure when.
It says April.
Yeah.
I don't recall, I mustn't have been here for that.
We talked about doing a white line, we talked about, the chief did some type of accident report on that intersection. And I talked to the Schulers about possibly cutting down a tree. We talked about doing, like a blinky light on the stop sign. I guess people aren't stopping on Schuler Road, that's the actual stop sign. And then the other throughway is, Shirey Road. And people are just driving too fast and not really paying attention. We were gonna work with Cleveland Borough, they have a line painter. It just didn't work out for us to do that just yet.
Okay.
So that letter there, I guess, I don't know, Jeff, did you go to that accident? You guys go?
I can't see that this is happening, considering how open the whole intersection is. You can see all ways.
Right,
And somebody's going through the stop signs, and that's,
yeah.
yeah, we had multiple accidents there already. There's no reason for it.
Well, I guess the most recent one is what sparked the letter here.
And the pine tree that was at the corner, that's gone. That fell over.
Yeah, the tree that we're referring to would be on,
Across the street.
the south side of Shirey Road, be right on your right-hand side, right at the actual stop sign.
Yeah.
We did put up, a couple years ago, we did put a stop ahead sign back, a couple hundred feet. But I mean, really can only do so much.
Well, I think if we get that white line on it, I mean, you can't kind of do it when it's warm.
Right.
It'll be a summertime project. And I don't know what else we could do.
Yeah, it seems the majority of them are people just going through the stop signs.
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time, especially late at night when plowing. I mean, I'll come through there and people they don't even stop.
Yeah, that's a good spot for the chief to set somebody up for a while. All right, we'll reach back out to this and tell them, just letting know we'll get the white line painted on when it's warm.
Okay,
And we'll keep monitoring.
okay.
Okay. Engineers report.
The first one there is solar farm. There's not much of an update since the last meeting. They're kind of trying to get through there. Dealing with the conservation district, and we'll hear from them when the weather breaks. Willow Crest, we pretty much covered most of that with the exception of the open space. And I know on the open space and some of those improvements, Robbie and I were talking that we need to kind of reach out to Grande before they move in there and do that work. And they're not going to be able to do anything right now. If it was clear and cold, they could do it, but I think there's some discussion that he wanted to have with the contractor before they got there to do the work. So that's another waiting on the weather right now. The other item here is the data center. So that ordinance, if you had seen that or had a chance to really look at it, just to summarize it, basically we had taken this mostly from the information that PSATs provided during a webinar and created the ordinance based off of that. I think it really, and we had a chance to kind of just discuss this, Jeff and I with Chris, that there's a lot of things we want to cover when you're doing these, the noise, setbacks, the water, the electric, requiring those studies to be included as part of the use if they ever come through. Building height, which that was one that all of the information I was seeing from PSATs was 75, 80 feet or higher. But just recently looking at some of the other ones, they're sitting at 50 feet. And I think you can kind of set what you want as a height there. And let's just say it was the industrial district that went in, that 50 feet is consistent with what's the current height. So that might be something to kind of settle in on that number as opposed to the 80 that I have in there.
80's too high.
I mean, that's, I think in the bigger areas where they're coming in more than one at a time, they're looking at 80 to 120 feet. Again, we're not trying to accommodate somebody here. We're just putting in a number that's appropriate for the district, which is currently 50 feet.
50 feet's even an issue
That's
as far as fire protection.
So I think one of the bigger questions we had coming into looking at this is where exactly would it fit? I don't know that short of trying to create some kind of an overlay district, if somebody had that in mind, the districts that really somewhat suit that kind of a use, obviously it's the industrial district, and then there's the light industrial. And I don't know if that's something that everyone would feel comfortable adding that to, but that is basically the solar farm property back to the industrial district. But the location is which district would you want to put it in? And I think the other question is what use permitted how? Right, conditional use or special exception? I'm seeing most of the time they're coming through as a conditional use. I don't know if you agree with that, Chris, or if it's strictly just.
Conditional use or a special exception. I think it is something that has a lot of potential impacts, and therefore it's appropriate to have a public hearing so the neighbors can have a voice in the process. So either one, special exception or conditional use. I mean, conditional use is typically where the elected officials want to have some input into the decision because they perceive that the proposed use would have a community-wide impact. The downside of making it a conditional use is that the elected officials have to remain neutral. And so you are compromising your ability to take a position on the project. Whereas if it's a special exception and it goes to the zoning hearing board, the Board of Supervisors could become an active advocate for one, whatever position the board wants to take. So there's a trade-off. Do you want to be the judge who has to remain neutral, or do you want to have the right to be an advocate, in which case it's better to send it to the zoning hearing board? Anyway, those are the considerations that I would want to weigh in deciding which way you would go in terms of the process for review. right now, you have what I would call a catch-all provision in the zoning ordinance. In the light industrial district, there is a special exception that is basically for uses that are otherwise specifically provided for in the ordinance. So at least under that existing regulation, these sort of unknown or new uses would go to the zoning hearing board. But I think I wouldn't want to rely on that regulation for a data center. I think you want to have some standards in place and decide what district you want it to be placed in, so that there are objective standards. With the current catch-all language, it's sort of open-ended. There's just the general standards for special exceptions that would apply. So I think you definitely want to have a specific regulation for data centers with objective standards. It's going to be a lot easier to enforce those standards if they are set forth in detail in a new regulation.
Well, with all that said, I don't know, my thinking is that the only place I'm envisioning that would be a good fit would be the industrial.
Correct.
That's zoned.
The I district, not the LI.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about the LI. But, that's zoned industrial up there for a reason. And that would I think it would be the right fit. I don't see it working anywhere else. So my thinking is, I think that's what we should look at. And I think ultimately we should be able to voice an opinion on it as well.
But that gives it to the zoning board.
It does. Kind of darned if we do, darned if we don't kind of thing.
I'm okay with that.
Well, if you have objective regulations that you have approved through your legislative powers, the zoning hearing board has to enforce those standards. So if you make it a special exception use, they're applying the regulations that you've created. You can participate in the hearing, and you can even appeal the decision of the zoning hearing board if you're not satisfied with the outcome.
Why don't we can we work on the draft?
Yeah, I think
Based on what we
said
have,
here,
with the
and
height restrictions,
would you like to take that to the planning commission for them to
I think we should.
put you on that then? All right.
Yep.
And I agree with you, Sam, in that when Jeff and I were looking at the township to try to find another location, it's
I don't see one.
it's tough to try to find a place where you know what they would be, which is basically another type of warehouse.
Another issue, I think, is they're gonna want public sewer and water, which is not available. So it's a tough fit for this township.
I agree.
Did you recommend special exception? Is that what you're thinking? Okay. Just to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I think, like I said, the sample that we have right now does include a lot. I think we can adjust the building height. I think there's a good reason to adjust some of the residential setbacks, but I'm not sure how much we need to in that district, but we'll look at that a little closer too. Okay. All right. Will do. Then the other one is just the road work. I'd gotten some costs together and I just gave that to Robbie to look at and see if there was things he wants to add and look at. But again, we didn't have a chance to really get that presented to the board here. But I think come the next meeting might be a good chance that if we have a set number, we can.
I think Robbie's got a pretty good idea of what it is. So.
That was all I had. If there's any questions?
No. Solicitor's report, delinquent sewer.
Okay, you have our report. Just talking to Jen about this before the meeting. The ones that are over $1,000 did receive a letter back in before the holiday.
Correct, yep.
So what I would recommend is to send a follow-up letter to them, just confirming that they're on notice that these amounts are due and payable, and warning them about the imposition of a lien. And then if we don't get a response to that letter, then I would recommend filing liens on any unliened delinquencies for those that are over $1,000. The one that is most problematic is the last one.
Yep, the last one.
458 Main Street. We have a judgment against them. We looked at doing a sheriff's sale of personal property, but, it didn't seem like there was anything really there to make it worthwhile to pay the expenses of that process. Jen, can you remind me, is there anything else going on that property? Is there any mortgage foreclosure pending or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I have sent them letters to both their emails and mailed something out to them. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they're divorced, but most of the time I see just Sarah's name listed on the property, so.
Okay, is this amount growing compared to what it had been? I mean, are they making any current payments?
I have to find,
Says the last
last-
bill was 2024.
I'll have to verify that with Pam's just to make sure.
Okay, because I think what we could do is, if there are unliened amounts that are now delinquent,
Okay,
that we could file a lien and bring a new DJ complaint to try to get the owners to the table. I mean, sometimes filing of those DJ complaints does bring people to the table. It doesn't guarantee it, but at least there's a possibility that we could get them to talk to us about a payment plan.
I think actually the last payment that was on there was because they were on a payment plan before, and they were coming into the office every month bringing a check, because they had a payment plan before, and then once the payment plan was done,
That's my recollection. Okay,
it was over.
well, I don't think they finished the payment plan.
No, they did.
Oh, they did?
Yep.
Oh, wow,
Yep.
okay. Well, then certainly I think it would be appropriate, as I said, to send them another letter,
Okay,
lien them for any unliened delinquent balances. That gives us 2 points of contact. And then if they don't respond to either of those actions, then I would recommend a DJ complaint to try to get them to come to the table. So I think the starting point for each of these would be a letter from Jen, see if they respond, and that would be the 4 that are over 1,000. Then wait a couple weeks and then file liens, and then if there's no response, then take a DJ action, at least with that last one, which is the largest one. Is that sequence and proposed actions okay with the board?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right.
I'll send a note out to Pam's as well, let them know which ones I'm sending out, so they can give me a heads up as to who pays what and when, just so we have an idea.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board about that subject? Okay. All right, so we'll proceed as discussed. Now, the next item is the new franchise agreement with Comcast. They are asking to come into the township to provide cable television services. I think that's really just a point of entry for them to come in and sell internet services, but they have to go through this process because of the federal communications law to gain access to the right-of-ways of the township to install cable. The franchise agreement is similar to the one that you have with Service Electric. There are a couple of points of contrast that I would like to summarize for the board. The current Service Electric agreement is for 10 years with 5-year renewals. The proposed Comcast agreement would be just for 5 years. Both agreements are for 5% of the gross revenues. And again, that is only for cable services. We don't get any franchise fees for internet access. The Comcast agreement uses what I would call the latest version of the definition of gross revenues, which is expanded to what we consider the maximum extent. So that is slightly better than the definition of gross revenue under the Service Electric agreement. We have a right to audit twice during the 5-year term under the Comcast agreement. Under the Service Electric agreement, it's slightly different. It's every 2 years that we can do an audit. I don't know that we would ever audit this because it's just it's too expensive for the revenue that you get, but you do have the right of audit. And then there's interest on any unpaid fees that are discovered through that audit process. There is an obligation for line extensions where in the Comcast agreement, 25 dwelling units per linear mile of aerial cable and 50 dwelling units per underground mile of cable. And in the Service Electric agreement, it's just 25 homes per mile is the standard. And any residence that's within 125 feet of a distribution line is required to be offered connection. We do get free installation here at the township building and basic cable service with one outlet. This is something that there has been some legal challenge to, so they're offering it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they told us they weren't going to deliver on that, but they are offering it at this time. There is customer service obligations for responding to complaints. So that's a good thing for the residents. They have liability coverage and indemnification, which is the same for both contracts. There's also a performance bond, which is a good thing to hold them accountable for their performance of the contractual obligations. There's notice and hearing requirements if there's any enforcement action that's required by the township in the event that we perceive that they're not complying with the agreement. There's something called competitive equity, where if either of these contractors believes that the other is getting a competitive advantage in their agreement, they're entitled to ask for the equivalent benefits. In general, I would say that it's substantially the same agreement. There's, again, some details that are slightly different, but it's substantially the same agreement as Service Electric. In terms of process, we're required to have a public hearing before you authorize the execution of the agreement. and the approval of the agreement is by way of an ordinance. The board had previously authorized the advertising of the public hearing and the advertising of the ordinance for approval of the agreement. So I am, on behalf of the board, going to turn to the audience and ask if there's anybody present here tonight who wishes to offer any comments as part of the public hearing on this proposed agreement with Comcast to have Comcast come into the township and compete with Service Electric for cable television. I don't see any indication of any public comment on that, so the board can close the public hearing. And if you don't have any additional questions, I would recommend a motion to approve the ordinance which authorizes the execution of the agreement with Comcast.
I'm gonna close the hearing and make a motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right, so that satisfies the legal steps that are necessary, and the board can sign the ordinance and the agreement, and then Jen can send it back to Comcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is item 2 under the solicitor's agenda. The next item is the shared use path agreement. I hope you've all had a chance to take a look at that. There is, at the end of the agreement, an exhibit which shows the area of 222 where the proposed, what I would call a bicycle crossing, essentially, is located. There is a design that is incorporated into the agreement. It's Exhibit A and Exhibit B to the agreement. All the signage is shown, as well as the location and dimensions of the proposed crossing. I think it would be suitable for pedestrian use. It's suitable for bicycle use. I don't know that it's suitable for anything else. I mean, I don't know really what the dimension is. Scott, do you know if, for example, would a buggy be able to use this?
Did they tell you what the actual width of that thing is?
We were looking at 8 feet.
All right. That's
So the
probably
intent was,
bicycles and pedestrians.
the intent was that they would make it wide enough for horses buggy in one direction.
Oh, you think 8 feet is enough?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was,
I thought it was 10, Sam.
I asked for 10. He said, remember, he said he didn't think he had enough area on, to make it 10 feet. And I said, we really should have it 10 feet. And he said, well, that would hinge on whether or not, he didn't think they had enough to fill, where, because they had to go out so far. I think it was a great excuse, but, yeah, I lobbied for 10, but I
I thought
thought,
it was 10 because then we could take a truck and plow
yeah.
it. Pretty sure, I thought it was 10.
But then we had, well, that was the second one in the conversation. When they didn't give us access to get in there to do snow removal. They had a hard 90-degree turn where we couldn't get in there. We said, well, how are we gonna remove the snow? So they had to change it. And I think we decided we were gonna put a gate there.
Some type of gate,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then at that point, that's when I think we discussed, it. Then we said it has to be 10 feet, or that's where the 10
I'm
feet.
pretty sure it's 10 feet.
But they pushed back on 10 feet initially.
Okay, well, I think we need to confirm, and I can't read this to tell you what that dimension is, but we need to confirm that it's at least 10 feet. And also, I would think that if it's intended to be usable by horse and buggy, that there ought to be appropriate signage. And that 90-degree turn, is that something a buggy can make that turn?
Yes, yeah, you can make the turn, but you wouldn't be able to make the turn with the truck.
Yeah. So the snow removal's the issue. You think the horse and buggy can
No,
make
they
that turn?
can make that.
Okay. So if it is 10 feet, and therefore usable by horse and buggy and by snowplow with appropriate access, then the question I have is, if a gate is necessary in order for snow removal equipment to enter this pathway, is that access within the PennDOT right-of-way? Because there is a term in this agreement that says that if they don't have enough right-of-way, we have to get the additional right-of-way at township expense. So that's a detail that we need to understand. And also, I don't think this gate is depicted anywhere that you're talking about.
They didn't, I don't think they added, this was what we looked at when we met with them here. And I don't think they settled on the gate, but we said we have to have some way to get in there and do snow removal, which they seem to have overlooked. Maybe they're not, that's what. And I'm not 100% sure we need all the flashing lights and it's not gonna get used. Because you're gonna have to go there and get those, you're gonna have to manually start those lights. There's gonna be a button there. So when you cross, and my argument was, nobody's gonna use them. You know, and then, which is bad, but we're gonna have to maintain them.
The only thing I worry about there is if they're doing that, typically if it's any kind of a flashing light started by a button, they view that under the same review and approvals as traffic signals.
Oh, yeah, it is a traffic signal.
And if it is, then do you own and maintain, and this is all the town, is it all townships?
Well, that's, the other thing I was gonna get at, I emailed you about this, was they want the township to pay for the construction. So that would be all of this electronics.
Yeah, that was a real surprise. Yeah, that never came up.
Did they bring this to us or did we bring this to them?
They brought us, well, they brought it to us based on what we asked them. Because once this new highway is done, they basically cut off the north-south crossing from, you're all the way from Crystal Cave all the way up to 662. You won't be able to cross 222 there. And there's quite a few Mennonites that live on that side of it, that attend church on the other side of it. So like I told them, yeah, it's only 2 miles. Unless you're walking or on a bicycle or on a horse, 2 miles is a long way. So they came up with this, which I thought was fabulous. I thought, hey, there's a good solution, common sense, not a big deal. But it got real complicated real quick, as you might imagine.
Yeah, so what the agreement says is township would pay to construct it, township will pay to maintain it. Township has to have liability insurance for the use of it. So it's a heavy burden on the township for this. I mean, what I was expecting was that it would be similar to the roundabouts, where we might have a maintenance obligation,
Exactly.
Right.
but not a construction obligation. And there's
That
also,
never came up in the conversation that I remember.
That's the first time that I'm hearing that too. I was under the impression that we were just gonna have maintenance for the actual path and the signals. That's what the conversation was.
what I'm wondering is if it's negotiable. I mean, with the roundabout stuff, there has been some room for negotiation, not a lot, but some. And I would suggest that this would be something, you know, this is not for a private benefit. This is for public safety that you are asking for this. So, you know, if this was something where you had, for example, a private business that was asking for special access to their property because of the highway improvements, then I would think it might be appropriate to pay for all these costs, you know. But, you know, that's not the case. This is for public safety for the community at large. So I reached out to guy at TPD
TBD.
and asked him if he's seen any of these other agreements, and I haven't gotten an answer yet. I don't know, have you folks had anything like this before?
Not like this, no, and just the two things building off of what you said was, I mean, this is your local demographic. It's not like the township created this. Why aren't they accommodating for it in their design? And
Well, they should. I mean,
to that point, they should be including this not at the township's cost, but as part of this area's design. But, and then to your point, Sam, I think if it is negotiable, I think the idea of not having that flashing is a huge
I don't think it's necessary.
Now you're going from a signal diagram that has to get prepared, equipment that's costly. If anything, somebody hits that pole and takes out that push button and flashing lights, that's
And they're not
tens
gonna
of
get off
thousands
the
of
horse
dollars.
until you push the lever.
No, I said no way.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna stop on their bicycle either.
I mean, they may identify that.
I mean-
Maybe there's enough sight distance, you don't need it.
I think the signage is fine. The signage. But in my eyes, they created this hardship. They should come up with a solution, but not at our expense.
Correct. I think there's some negotiation ability there too. We gotta get some public officials involved.
well, that was gonna be the next thing. I think we ought
Better
to,
than us.
I think maybe the response to this would be a letter, and copy your state representative and state senator on the letter to bring this to their attention.
A little letter explaining to them the scope of what's going on.
So, I mean, I know only what I have seen here. If you want me to draft this letter and then you supplement it with additional information that I'm not aware of, do you want to do it that way, or do you
Yeah,
want
that'd
to
be fine.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
you have the basic drift. Demographics require some sort of solution, and we're willing to maintain it, but we're not willing to, where do you create this problem?
Yeah, the whole right-of-way thing is a concern too.
Well, that's, if we have a gate, in order to get snow equipment access, we want it to be through PennDOT right away and not have to acquire additional right of way. I mean, again, the right of way acquisition and the construction costs should all be PennDOT's expense.
I
This is a state road.
Okay. So I think I know what to say to get the first draft of this letter together, and then we'll go from there.
Great.
How did you leave it with them in terms of process? And did you know this was coming? Or did they say we need this by February 15th in order to do it?
When we initially sat down with them, we were just trying to get the concept together. And then they came back with this. And then we made some changes to it. One of them was, we looked at it and said, well, we can't get in here. How are we gonna maintain this? So we caught some things there. And then, because initially we asked for a 10-foot wide. And they said, well, they don't think they can do that because they had to fill too much there. But they said they'll look into it. And then they came back and they never really gave us a yes or a no on that until Robbie said, well, it's gotta be 10 foot or we can't do the snow removal. And I think that kind of pushed it into having it 10, because this has to be 10 foot wide anyway.
Do we have a profile of this? Is it flat or is it up and down?
No, it's pretty flat.
Is it?
Yeah, it's actually, I thought it was a really good solution for the problem there.
Okay.
Very inexpensive solution to give them, and it would get used heavily, I can tell you. So I thought, hey, here's a good way to do it.
And are they widening the road, or is this is this a
Not
marked
that
area of the
much,
shoulder?
No, they would be extending the shoulder, but the shoulder drops off. So they're concerned they'd have to fill in there.
All right. All right, well, let me take a stab at the draft letter and
Yeah, appreciate it.
put something. All right. Oh, why not?
Is that it, Chris?
Anything else for me?
No, I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Stack Beck, there was a letter from Stack Beck on the chapter 94 waste load. You guys all see that?
Never way below the road.
Pretty good shape. Roadmasters report, Robbie.
Basically, the past month, we've been doing snow removal, plowing, salting, hauling some snow away from troubled areas, and that's pretty much it. So, we took over the open, or not the open space, the new development, Willow Crest. We had to haul a couple loads out of there. But other than that, it went pretty good.
Yeah, you guys did a bang-up job. A lot of compliments on how you did it, even from the Willow Crest. Yeah, so good job on that. That was a rough, could have been worse, I guess, but the Sunday, if people stayed at home, let you clean up.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out at some point in time, somebody to do the sidewalk over there off of Rhino Drive out towards the elementary school. Grande, I'm pretty certain Grande is still doing that, and they did do it. But for us to do it, I mean, it's gonna be a long time until we're able to even get there. And right now, we don't have anything to plow that off.
Do you think the school would?
We tried.
Well,
I tried, I met him in person too. I said, listen, that's part, we're gonna take this back, and we're gonna take it. Can you just plow the snow? Absolutely not.
I think I'm gonna try again. There's some stuff, as Sam would say, I'm gonna run it up the flagpole. I think there's some stuff that the actual maintenance people, they didn't know anything about it. And I talked to one of the guys that deal with quite a bit. He's obviously not his choice to make the decision, but he didn't see why it would be a problem.
They told me it was maintenance's decision that they didn't want to mess with it.
Well,
That comes directly from the superintendent. And I said, come on, I mean, you created this problem, and you didn't take it back, or whatever the deal was. Now we're taking over. All we ask is you're plowing those sidewalks, plow this.
right.
And it was a firm no. But you give it another go around. It was a
Yeah,
change
we'll
of
try.
board members. This was probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, we'll try. I have a pretty good relationship with them right now. We also do some mowing for them every 2 years, so to me, it just makes sense.
Oh, it definitely makes sense.
So,
But I tried my power of persuasion with 0 results. It was an in-person plea.
the only, 2 other things, I got a price to get, the salt shed has no soffit.
What's soffit?
So soffit is what goes underneath right where your gutters are.
Okay.
It allows air to flow through your house.
Okay.
We have no soffit, it's open. And the problem we're having is birds are coming in there. And not only, but there's these 2 crows. They're trying to make a nest. I'm not kidding. They're bringing sticks in like this, and they're dropping the sticks all over the place. And obviously, we have to clean it up. But I'd like to enclose the salt shed itself, make some type of door so we can keep the moisture off the salt and keep a fresher product. So the first thing to do for us would be to get the soffit installed, and I have to look at some type of door cover, and then maybe put some bird netting up on the trusses at some point in time. So that's what we're looking into. I'd like to try and get it enclosed somehow, but it's tough because the door, I think the opening is like 20-some feet by almost 40 feet.
Yeah.
40 feet tall, so it doesn't really need to be that tall. I say as long as the triaxle fully dumped is 18 to 20 feet maybe. So maybe if we're at like 25 feet tall, I think that's more than enough. The triaxle can still pull out with the body fully up in the air.
It would limit you, you couldn't get deliveries from trailers, that's probably why they did it like that.
Well, that's what the idea was, but I've been here almost 10 years and we never got a tractor.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary, but I think.
That was the original design, so that a dump trailer could fully dump in there. But at the same time, the dump trailer can dump in there, it just has to leave a longer trail
Yeah.
and we'll push the salt in. It's not
Correct.
the end of the world.
I think back then there wasn't as many triaxles, I think it's
Right.
kind of shifts, and I agree with you.
Right.
That would not have to be that high, but I've never seen doors on anything like that.
No, I'm thinking like a tarp, like a tarp mechanism, something for now, just to kind of, the tarp and a cable, just to kind of keep the moisture out. What happens is the moisture gets in, it creates like a crust on the top of the salt, and then it's clumpy, and then it clogs up our spreaders, and it's not ideal for us.
Do you have salt less?
Probably have over 100 ton in there, and I have 250 ton on order. So, we're a part of the Berks County, what's that called? Come on.
The cooperative purchasing
Yeah,
council.
so we're a part of that with Berks County, we've been a part of that since I'm here. I'd like to look into joining the state thing. The only thing with the state is you need to take 60% of your order, which is not a big deal. We'll just take that order first, but that gives us 2 different places to access salt. So Jen and I will look into that and see what we need to do to be a part of that.
Salt is a shortage, it seems like.
So,
But hopefully this weather breaks this week and it won't be as bad.
yeah, it's supposed to warm up a little bit.
Because diesel fuel's crazy in this area too. Went up 50 cents.
I think that's pretty much it. I want to get some prices on a different mower, something that we can maybe utilize a plow or a snow blower, and also a mower for the open space. There's some hills over there. But, I mean, that's pretty expensive stuff on his hat, but we don't.
That's
again,
the
we don't-
snap-on of
we don't-
tractors.
We don't need something brand new, but I have been seeing some stuff that has a plow and a finish mower on the front. And I'll get together with you guys sometime on that.
Those are good mowers though, and they're versatile. You can do that in a plow, even a snow plow. if you need to.
Right now, we have a grasshopper that has the front mower on it, and we made a plow for it. That's actually up at our sewer plant right now. We use that to plow around the sewer plant, but it's just been giving us little problems, and I think it's seen its day.
It's past its prime.
Yeah, so that's really all I have.
Okay, sounds good, Roger. Good, again, good job.
Yep. Great job.
Payment of the bills.
In the general funds, we have check numbers 12260 to 12296, including EFTs for $197,315.26.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Aye.
State fund, we had no checks. Light fund, we had no checks. Sewer fund, check numbers 3382 to 3389, including EFTs for $39,617.78.
Make a motion with that.
All in favor? Aye.
Walnut Town Fire Escrow, check number 2201 for $1,005.50.
Make a motion with that.
All in favor? Aye.
Virginville Fire Escrow, check numbers 2206 and 2207 for $21,983.87.
I'll make a motion with that.
All in favor? Aye.
In your packets, I have, the disposition and destruction of records. It's that time of year to go through those again. We have a resolution 2026-11 for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
We got notice from the county of Berks that there were some property reassessments, as you can see on here. Now, some of these reassessments, they drop down in value that we were supposed to offer a refund to these residents. Some of these are less than what an actual postage stamp would cost. But I think, I don't know, first, is this something that must be refunded or?
60 cents and $4.80.
They're entitled to the refund, but I would say if it's less than $1, I wouldn't bother.
Okay,
Although it would clear this matter if we refunded it, but it seems so ridiculous to.
for them to take that to
Refund
a
less.
check to the bank for 69 cents.
What if we sent them a letter, or Jen sent them a letter just saying, you know, we got this notification, this is the amount of refund.
But that's more than the
All
I would just send them a check and clear it out.
right,
I really would.
okay,
Right? Do you send them a letter and she wastes her time, just cut them a check.
That'll be
I
two
mean, I know it's
steps.
stupid. I know it's stupid.
okay, I just
Before
figured
you
I'd
send them a
ask.
letter.
It is very minute. And then we have the audit engagement letter from Cherry Bedford, I think you pronounce it, formerly of Irvine and Company. They're going to be auditing the books first week of March. Just need an approval on the letter.
I make a motion that we approve it. All in favor?
And that's all I have.
Okay, I didn't see it on the agenda, but we talked about a
Yes.
executive session.
Yes.
I would like to have an executive session.
You could adjourn the meeting unless you're anticipating
No.
any action.
Okay, then I make a, then we have the executive session after.
Yeah, you can adjourn and then.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
And this, for the minutes, would be an executive session regarding litigation.
I held back, I was gonna ask you, then you get the Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas.